2021 brought us the made-for-TV rom-com called As Gouda as It Gets, a barely passable play on words that lets you know not only is this movie all about cheese, but also that the clumsy pun making up its title is still the most clever writing you're gonna get. Saying as Gouda as sort of takes away from it sounding like the original expression, but it's also a film that was made to play in the background as white noise for people living in hospice centers. So if it's Gouda enough for them, then it's good enough for me. Rest in peace, Nana. And also rest in peace to our main character's grandfather, for it was his life and death that inspired her to become a quaint, small-town cheesemaker, coincidentally named Brie, hopelessly incapable of finding love because she's too busy aging her cheeses, in hopes of winning Best in Show at the Big Cheese Festival so she can finally put an end to the grief and sadness that consumes her. Super cute idea, girl boss. So let's slice into a fresh block of content and watch as her big plans get disrupted by a handsome cheese blogger who's also named after cheese, a mega cheese corporation, and the other hot guy who owns it, in a cute Vermont town that is so consumed by its own cheese lust that it goes from cute to kind of gross before you can say the word Gruyere. So grab your favorite fondue set, a friend who's equally freaky for fromage, and find that soft cheese you've been saving to use as a personal lubricant in today's sexy, stinky, moldy, milky installment of Clip Breakdown. Hello, television viewers. My name is Nick. Thank you so much for joining me once again for another installment of Clip Breakdown. This is the playlist where we dive into our favorite movies, TV movies, and other such content here on the web, and we break it down like the lactose in milk when it becomes cheese, so that we can look at each molecule and minuscule moment and determine if it's worthy of a 5-star rating at the cheese shop, or if it's just that processed cheese food that you get from Walmart. I'm not trying to be a cheese snob, but we're about to be cheese snobs because today it's all about the cheese, if you please. But before we get into all of that, make sure you give this video a big thumbs up, click that subscribe button, and I guess that's it. Click the subscribe button primarily is the point I'm trying to make there. If you haven't, then you should. If you haven't, then you should. Look at me talking about cheese and you're not gonna click subscribe when I'm talking about cheese. Oh, also, I know I'm very inconsistent with this, but I have to give a shout out to Geek Robin or GK Robin. Either way, Robin is a member of my exclusive Patreon community who suggested this movie to me. Thank you so much. I am so excited that I was able to find the suggestion and jump right on it because this was a fun one. All you need to know is that this movie stars Kim Shaw, who is a favorite of other such made-for-TV movies. This time, baby, we are going to Vermont for her small-town cheese store called Brie's Cheeses. Never once in this movie do they call her Brianna, and I'm like, did they name you Brie and that's your full government name? Because that is fucking weird since your grandpa was so into cheese. You're a sick family. You're a sick family, and you have a sick way of making cheese. Let's watch.
This is the recipe for sweet and sour goat brie that I've been experimenting with.
That's incredible.
The health department also called that one incredible. Well, technically they said Brie's whole business lacked credibility, which she interpreted as a total boob basket. That's the girl boss version of a slam dunk. I don't know if you caught the 100% hairnet free and zero hand protection cheese making technique that was on display just now. Look at her, sweating into that open vat of hot milk, looking like she's shoveling coal on the steam engine of a big ship. It's like, wow, we love this complex flavor profile, Brie. And I noticed that you folded in every flyaway and fleck of under the fingernail crud that shed off your gross body just now. Do those make up the sweet and the sour elements respectively? Or are they more of a binding ingredient? You know, let me grab the dustpan and we can brush some floor sweepings into the mix as well. If the E. coli poisoning doesn't get them, they'll still have to swallow a loose screw from the baseboards. What could be more artisanal? As you saw, that was her friend just now tasting the cheese. Along with that, I don't think any made-for-TV movie from 2020 onward has ever leaned in this hard to the cliche character of the working woman who lets her quaint, creative job take the place of her whole personality.
How did the date go?
Total bust.
No, what happened?
Turns out he's lactose intolerant. Ugh. What on earth would we talk about? Or eat?
And I don't know, but probably foods that don't give him the shits. or whatever. If you can imagine. I love a character that is so happy-go-lucky that she has random pirouettes and twirls worked into her blocking. That is not the natural movement for everyday life, ma'am. It's something that actors with dance experience have to consciously do when directors don't understand women. She said, "Oh, Cheddar, have you ever met a woman as undateable as me?" What a pain in the Asiago. I come and barely believe it. By the way, I got a couple more bomb threats this morning. People in this town really seem to hate me. But not you, token non-white friend who's rooting for me. You care deeply about helping me find a man, sometimes more than I do. But I'm just too busy to find a man who doesn't care that I refer to sex as pounding out my provolone. It's like an SNL skit. The first few minutes of this is just a marathon of TV movie tropes, including helpfully expositional exchanges where characters casually overstate background information for no one other than an unseen audience.
You shouldn't let one iffy date ruin it for the rest of them.
Not it. The Cheese Festival kicks off today. Our busiest, most important week of the entire year. The last thing I have time for is romance.
Says the woman who has been to the emergency room thrice this month with cheese-related yeast infections. That's right, brown-skin bestie. Brie doesn't need a man to keep her warm at night. She already has warmth from the heat being generated by her own body's candida overgrowth. It's a moist, itchy heat, but who cares? It's basically like having a whole colony of boyfriends, thriving in a nasty, out-of-control cluster, living on the surface of her mucous membranes. She's basically living every day like Rachel from The Bachelorette. If, once again, Rachel had a history of eating so much cheese that it required medical intervention. And the point is moot anyway, because as you would think a passionate cheesemaker would know, Brie's famous 4-year-old smoked Gouda would be perfect for any lactose-intolerant boyfriend, because any aged cheese past the point of 2 months no longer has lactose. It's all been broken down into lactic acid. Okay, mama? So feed the man that cheese and sit on his penis. Oh no. Oh, she said it. It's a lot. It's a lot to say for the internet. You know, I appreciate the way this movie teaches us that certain things like cheese just get better with the passage of time. Me personally, however, with the passage of time, I just get impatient and anxious and fidgety, which is why over the last few years since quarantine, I've gotten really into mobile games. I've told you about a few of these before, but now I have to share my latest obsession, Toon Blast. Toon Blast is the sponsor of today's video. I'm so grateful for the hours of entertainment that Toon Blast has given me. For example, my car broke down and I was waiting for a tow truck for the 3rd time this year, and Toon Blast totally kept me occupied for the half hour I needed to pass. It's free to play and doesn't require Wi-Fi, so I was set. Toon Blast is a mobile game that you can get on all devices. Basically, you can blast the cubes, or you can create powerful combos to help you blast through these super entertaining puzzles. I'm already on level 31, which is probably the most I've committed to any game ever in my life, and I'm barely scratching the surface. Toon Blast has over 7,000 levels. I love the graphics. The characters are super fun. They kind of remind me of those cartoons that were really loony back in the day. Only this time, we're helping the Toon Gang travel around their magical world. The animations are very soothing and smooth, but I also love when you get like a big row of things blasting. It vibrates in my hands and it's just so satisfying. I want to do it more and more. It's also a social activity because you can join other teams and unlock better rewards. The more active your team is, the more stuff you get. Also, in between the main levels, you get these fun mini games. Oh, Bruno, you're in trouble again. You can even compete in events to challenge other players around the world. But my favorite thing is how there are no ads that interrupt your gameplay. And because there's no Wi-Fi, you can literally play it anywhere, no matter where you are in the world. And it's easy to learn. Within 2 rounds, I was like, oh, an expert. Very easy to get, but still challenging to the brain. I feel much more relaxed after playing Toon Blast because I'm not sitting and watching the clock when I have some time to kill in things like waiting rooms or, I don't know, getting my smog test finally. The car thing is really a whole saga. Toon Blast has millions of reviews and really high ratings on the App Store and in Google Play. So I trust that you will love playing this game as much as I do. So make sure you download Toon Blast for free by clicking the link in the description or my pinned comment or scan the QR code. That will get you 3 hours of unlimited lives and 100 free coins. There's nothing cheesy about it. For real though, I love how obvious these first scenes are. It's the busiest time of our year and I have no time for a man. It's like, okay, They aren't even trying to shake up the dialogue. They're just like, are giving you exactly what you've heard before. Then we hop over to the Vermont Artisan Cheese Festival Championship building. It's like the Olympics. They built their own building for it, where we meet Jack Wolf. He is a prominent cheese blogger, former French restaurateur, and he's talking to the head of the cheese festival, who is a fan, asks for his autograph. And you can tell he's a big deal because his webmaster, who is also his everything man, comes up to him and says, "You just passed 100,000 followers on Instagram." And it's like, ooh, was that a lot in 2020? I mean, I don't have that many Instagram followers, but those who do have over 100,000 followers, I don't think they're getting people to ask for their autograph, like other grown adults especially. That's like a 1 million follower on Instagram type of thing. Anyway, Jack asks his webmaster, which, by the way, it still feels racist to have the token black friend, but we're gonna move on. He does not have time to buy the cheese from Brie's shop. Brie, by the way, is the only local entry into the Cheese Festival Best in Show Award. It's a national festival. So Jack is like, okay, well, I'll go to her shop and buy the cheese myself. At the shop, Brie is talking with a very passionate character who is always like, she's like, I'm in town for the cheese festival and I eat all this cheese. She looks kind of like a Catherine Hahn type. You can tell they're like, she likes cheese, so we'll make her the TV fat person, which means not fat at all. Then in comes Jack and he orders up the cheese he wants to review for his world famous blog, where apparently the whole cheese industry is watching and waiting to be influenced by the kind of old milk he likes.
I'll also try some of your truffle and salt Toscano. That halloumi looks good as well.
Those are some deep cuts.
Oh, what can I say? Cheese game's all about the B-sides. Is there anything else you'd recommend?
Yeah, would you consider eating my cheese That's when I take my Candida Colony headquarters and slather it in hot cheese sauce from the convenience store's nacho station. Oh, and I add a dash of paprika to help mellow out the smell of my burning flesh. By the way, is it clear how cheese crazy I am? Yes, sweetheart, we can tell from how wide you open your eyes that there's something not right there. That cheese-obsessed lady, like, realizes, oh my god, you're Jack Wolf, can you take a picture? And that's when Brie realizes, oh my god, you're Jack Wolf. She's too cool to read his blog, but she does sell his book, which I think is what launched him to stardom. So she's like, oh wow. She's all starstruck. Who writes a book about cheese and puts their face on the cover of it? Like, you would have a pretty photo of cheese, if anything. Whatever. Anyway, consider this your meet cute, even though it's sort of just hyping up this man who loves cheese so much.
You're Jack Wolf?
I just love your blog.
Would you happen to be the shop's namesake?
Yes, Brie Belanger.
Ugh, so the cheese blogger's name is Jack, as in Jack Cheese, and then the cheesemaker's name, Brie Boulanger, is basically French for cheese baker. I guess that's some pretty clever screenwriting. Fun fact, there was actually another character with a cheese-based name, but unfortunately, all of my lines were cut out from the final film because I guess my performance was too distractingly good. But I still remember my very first line. How do you do? My name is Cheddar Popcorn, but my friends call me White Cheddar because of how pale my is. Put her there. I'm the leading toothpick distributor for all of Vermont, and without me, how would your customers sample those small cubes of cheese at the Cheese Fest, I ask you? I say, let's start a petition in the comments to have them release the Cheddar Popcorn cut. Use the hashtag Justice for White Cheddar's pale and show studios that fans are begging for a full spin-off starring White Cheddar Popcorn that they can rent for 2 days this summer at any Redbox machine at 4 locations around the country. Anyway, Brie gets flustered when she realizes, oh, Jackie here is buying my cheese to write about on his website. I hope he likes the flavor and notes of it. JackWolf.com, again, bad name for a website about cheese, tells me nothing about cheese in the name. But the next day, the friend is reading it, he's like, he loved your smoked Gouda, says it's a definite finalist for the Big Cheese Festival concert, or whatever. However, he did have some notes for her goat cheese, saying it tasted too goaty. It was bland and flavorless. I was like, that actually makes sense for her. So she's like a little perturbed by the honest review that she got instead of taking the note. So she's up late mixing milk in the dead of night. She literally is putting her full forearms into this vat of milk and she's like, I can't wait till my friends eat this and die. The next morning, turns out the review wasn't such a bad thing. People are obviously loving the well-reviewed Gouda, but also trying out the goat cheese to see if it's as goaty as he claimed. So Brie is like, let me go pick us up some Philly cheesesteaks from those Cheese Fest exclusive food trucks. Right as Jack is going to check out the food trucks himself, and that leads to our second meet cute. She gets Cheese Whiz on his shirt, so they of course have to go back to her cheese cheese store because that's somehow more convenient than him going back to his hotel. And he realizes like, oh, she has this whole cool story behind the cheese shop because her grandfather did it. Can I write an article featuring your whole store? And she's like, I don't know. How do I know you know anything about cheese since you didn't like my cheese? Is this whole movie like a symbolism for eating pussy? It's not. It's about cheese. Anyway, he perfectly nails that she added cactus fruit as a sweetening agent in her sweet and sour goat cheese. So she's like, okay, guess you know your stuff. You can write about me. It's like, you needed him to write about you. You're a small business. What? It's your honor to be written about. So whatever. She shows him her hopefully prize-winning Gouda, and he's like, I can tell it's good literally by slicing into it. And she's like, yeah, you want to eat that semi-soft baby. So she agrees he can write the article, and he's like, we already started. And he invites her to a cheese mixer, a networking event, which obviously Brie doesn't normally go to because she doesn't even know how to style her hair except for perfectly and beautifully, as we see here. He gives her some appetizers and she starts asking him some questions of her own.
How does someone go from being a scientist to a French chef to a cheese blogger?
To me, cooking and making cheese is part art, part science.
And those were the two classes in high school that I was able to pass despite smoking weed right before. I just really wanted to carry that forward through the rest of my career path, hence cheese making. Speaking of which, I want to meet the first person who saw a curdled, moldy bucket of milk sitting in the direct sunlight and thought, that looks safe enough to eat, and furthermore, we're gonna melt it on top of turkey sandwiches at Friendly's from now on. Explain that to me, Jack Wolf. It's the only way to prove that you're an overqualified cheesemaker with the name of a power top from gay porn. The cheese MC, the guy who's in charge of the cheese contest, is like, thank you so much to Matt Lambert of the Lambert Farms, which is the big nemesis, I forget if I mentioned, for Brie here. She hates Lambert Farms. They basically bought out all the mom and pop shops in Vermont and sell the most cheese. But there's something else to it that she's not quite aware of, so she makes her exit, and when she's downstairs, a handsome man named Matthew comes up to her, and she's like, ugh, this blue cheese from Lambert Farms is so flavorless and piece of shit. And he's like, great. And then when Jack comes in, he's like, oh, this is my friend Maddie Lambert, your biggest enemy. And she's like, ooh, foot and mouth only, which she of course has a larf about the next day with her friend whatever.
Still can't believe you badmouthed Lambert Farms right to Matthew Lambert's face.
Not my finest moment.
No, Brie, but this is your finest moment. Look at that empty cup acting. Those don't seem unnaturally weightless. Someone might be like, oh, there's actually liquid in there. How did you do it? Method acting? Was the cup filled with marbles, some kind of sand, or hot kitty litter perhaps? On second thought, Kate Shaw, the actress, is a Hallmark movie veteran. So she's like, actually, as a Vermont native, Brie doesn't even like coffee all that much. She's more of a melted Velveeta girly. So to stay true to my character, my cup weights are actually these Laughing Cow spreadable cheese wedges from Craft Services. I wadded up the wax from some Baby Bell mini cheeses. Oh, and I also peeled off the top layer of this slice of pizza that I found in the trash. Like, what the f, lady? Just put some water in there and call it a day. But no, as actors, they can't just use real coffee or any drinkable liquid, because then it's not acting, and all of those improv classes they've taken would be reduced to just some adults at day camp. Then they might as well just be real life Canadian citizens sipping on Tim Hortons like this is real stupid life. No, the law of acting teaches us that the cup contents must be bone dry. And if anyone questions the reasoning, we will blame it on some lady from the wardrobe department who's a total about eating in costume. It's simply never the actor's fault, okay? Maddie at Lambert Farms is actually taking things like a sport. He sends over a cheese basket for Brie and is like, let's go to dinner and make up for it. And it's like, are you getting asked on a date? Meanwhile, Jack is talking to the lady. No, Jack is talking to his webmaster. He's like, what would I do without you? You're gonna live stream my cheese tasting? I love it. I thought the live streaming would become a thing, but nope, we're just showing that Jack is super famous. Later on, Jack is continuing his interview with Brie. The dairy farmer that Brie uses comes by and she's like, why don't you come by and include my farm in your article? It's like, none of this actually matters for the plot, whatever. Oh, and that night, Brie has her big workshop for the cheese festival, which is all about tasting and palate refinement. And that's when Brie does a little lighthearted ribbing at the writer of this article that's saving her business, commenting on how he did not like her goat cheese.
While someone like myself may appreciate a classically trained orchestra, others like yourself, may be drawn to a monkey playing the kazoo.
Stop laughing, everybody. That's a racially charged expression that her oppa used to describe jazz flautists. Oh, wait, I forgot this workshop is for the people of Vermont, so they were already racist. Way to know your audience, Brie. Pandering to those barf bags of buffalo mozzarella. It's like they're the dead grandpa you're still desperately trying to please. She calls him oppa, by the way. I'm like, is that Greek? French? Oppa. So everyone loves Brie's whole class, and then her and Jack go out for some cheese soup or some like some food truck food, and he talks about like how he used to love owning a French restaurant, and he got into cheese making because he accidentally ordered a ton of Swiss cheese one day because he didn't understand metric, and he didn't know what to do, so he melted it all down into his famous fondue that led to the book deal that led to his blog. He says he misses being a restaurateur. Then later, when they're at dessert, I'm guessing cheesecake or some she talks about how Lambert Farms made it so she could never take over her grandfather or Oppa's cheese store because they put him out of business maliciously and cruelly with tons of bloodshed.
I wasn't able to take over my Oppa's cheese shop because Maddie's grandpa tried to buy him out. When he said no, they opened up a shop down the street, undercut all his prices, and forced him to close.
Wow, sounds like your Oppa knew even less about running a successful business than he did about surviving lung cancer. Anyway, if you're done talking to me, here's that to-go container of roasted garlic and brown butter bechamel that you asked for, so you could go home and drip it all over each other during foreplay like candle wax. And once again, my name's Ronnie. It'll be printed on the comment card when you get your bill, and I'd really appreciate 5 stars if you enjoyed my service tonight. For example, when Madam requested our unused Parmesan rinds so that she could rub them all over her breasts, screaming for Mr. Wolf to, quote, her down like a warm pot of red sauce at Grandpa's Sunday dinner. We were quite the talkative table tonight, weren't we? But seriously, I will blackmail you to within an inch of your life if I see anything less than 5 stars or 30% tip. I'm trying to make it to Boston before New England Fashion Week starts. That's where I'll get my big break. Later on, we have Jack eating his lunch at the food carts when he's approached by Maddie Lambert, talking about how he misses when they first became friends. Apparently, Maddie was a guest at the restaurant where Jack worked as a chef, and he's like, I miss the days when we would talk for hours over a plate of your ravioli or whatever it was. And Maddie's like, well, isn't that the whole point of restaurants? Talking for hours over a plate of my ravioli or whatever the
Meeting people on their level, sharing something good.
Yeah, these days that can be hard to find.
Oh well, Philly cheesesteak's a good place to start.
You're not wrong, my friend.
Ugh, don't tell me what's right or wrong before gently deep-throating an entire Philly cheesesteak like that. Clearly you don't know. He said, Philadelphians know it's not a real Philly cheesesteak unless you wrap your lips around the bread and let it dissolve using the enzymes from your saliva. Like, where are you Canadians getting all of this information on the United States and their traditions? A shared copy of Animorphs? Maddie turns up later at the cheese shop and he's like, are you gonna come to dinner with me or what? And she's like, oh, it's not a date, it's a business dinner. But the friend is like, it's a date. And she's like, it's a date? And it's like, I've seen this movie 7 times already, it feels. And because she goes on this supposed date with Maddie, she actually misses Jackie's birthday party, cheese tasting, whatever his workshop was, fondue workshop. So I thought that was gonna be the main conflict, like he would leave there and see her on a date with Maddie and misunderstand. But actually at the date, Maddie is like, this isn't a date. I want to buy out your store, and if not, then I'll have to open up a competing store down the street. Sorry. Literally the exact thing she just described happening to her grandfather.
Your farm is beautiful.
Most people do have misconceptions of dairy farms. Surprisingly, I don't own a frilly apron or wear my hair in 2 braids.
Well, do you have mechanical pumps attached to pus-covered udders from cows that you feed hormones so that they continue lactating for the rest of their miserable lives, you Is that a misconception? I love your brown jacket. Anyway, Brie's best friend is like, maybe you should take the deal or you're gonna go to business and like then your grandfather's legacy is truly dead. By the way, if my makeup changed, it's because it did. I took a break to watch the movie Death Becomes Her with my patrons for our exclusive virtual watch parties, which are so much fun. This was probably my favorite one ever, and you can join at the studio audience tier or above to watch live, or all tiers get to join in and watch the archive version. So check it out, the link's below. Anyway, Julie, whatever, tell us why this is a big deal.
He's trying to make it seem like he's doing me a favor.
But in reality, he's not giving you much choice.
I'm not gonna be forced to sell my shop.
But if you don't, Lambert Farms is just gonna do to you what they did to your grandfather.
Bribe your loved ones for your remains and then feed them to the cows so that the whole town spends a week eating cereal that's indirectly been soaked with your corpse milk. Damn, Brie, you have to get out of this horrible town. Their dairy game is intense. See if you can go with that gay waiter to New England Fashion Week. You're like a supermodel to the people in Boston. Brie doesn't know what she's gonna do yet, but she doesn't have time to think about it. She's giving a tour of her cheese store cellar.
Our cellar is kept at a precise temperature and humidity. Being off by even a fraction can have significant repercussions. It's part science, part magic.
And by that, you mean it's all science and no magic, right, Miss Boulanger? We have a field trip of 6th graders on this tour, and judging by their vaccination records, they already come from households that are deeply anti-science and heavy on magical thinking. So we'd love for the town cheese shop to be part of the solution rather than the problem. Okay, kids, it's science. I feel like the whole casual mention of magic aspect of these TV movies makes more sense during the holidays when the main character has a job making Christmas candies or toys for orphans. Here, it's like, pull it together, lady. You're making cheese. You're talking to adults about cheese. Tell them how you inoculate the milk with starter bacteria. And then later on, you strain out the whey, which you seem to spray onto your neck like it's some sort of very sour perfume. Oh, at long last, the article comes out, the feature on their store, which covers all of Bree's history, like her grandfather's legacy, blah, blah, blah. She loves the article. And that's when Julie Margaret is like, don't give them the store. If they have to take it from you, fine, but you should also go and date Jack. He likes you a lot. So she's like, okay. She decides to go with her gut and invite Jack over for a romantic evening. Pretty much par for the course by this point in these movies, but I'm afraid nothing will prepare you for what Jack is seen doing next, and I'm specifically talking about the hat he chose to wear.
Bree?
Oi, mister, you got any cheese, have you? I've been selling newspapers since 4 a.m. and I've worked up a mighty hunger, I have. Looking for some free cheese, I am. Like, oh my god, Bree definitely did not tell you to just walk into her unlocked home looking like Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory went back in time. He said, honey, I'm here, dressed like your dead grandfather and ready for sex. Sweetheart, no. Anyone else? Right before they're about to slow dance to some strung up Christmas lights, and Margaret, girl, comes home over and is like, your cheese, there's a problem. I forgot to mention, on the tour, the cheese-obsessed lady is so busy live streaming the tour that she knocks the cooler out of sync. She turns off the fridge. And that's, as we just saw, bad for the magic of the cheese. And we can tell that because the cheese no longer is round. It has a dent in it.
My best guess is the power's been off since I gave the tour.
You're telling me this cheese sat in a slightly less cool fridge for an hour or two, and now it looks like the seat cushion on an electric shopping cart? What was gonna happen when your customers took this home and put it on a charcuterie board? It would have turned into gremlins? After 4 years of aging, you would think this smoked Gouda would be a little more stable. I mean, I've eaten one of those Panera sandwiches days after it's been trapped under the seat of my car, and it tasted almost better than fresh. That cheese was just as good as the day I left it there when I was hiding out from the tax collectors. Their first line of action is to find a customer who has bought the cheese that day and they can use some of their cheese to submit as the entry. And so they chase after that cheese-obsessed woman, the only person I guess they know, and this is a whole pointless scene. They bribe the maitre d' to get her room number, and that woman is like, I ate all 12 pounds of the cheese, and they're like, oh my god, we'll let you go so you can keep into the night. And so they go home and Bree's all sad because it's like, oh my god, my grandpa's legacy. But then she wakes up and she's like, wait, and she calls Jack over and she's like, I'm gonna do what you did, make fondue out of a rotten cheese situation. The whole point is the cheese still tastes good, but the texture and the appearance is not up for judging. But if they melt it into a fondue, they might still have a chance of winning. But they don't know because they don't know the rules to the contest, I guess. That should be publicly available, but whatever. There's some suspense because at the nick of time, after a montage of tasting melted cheeses together, they get the pot to this place and they're like, all right, we'll allow it. The rules don't explicitly exclude fondue form of cheese. And it's like, I mean, fondue is not really cheese, that you add a lot of other ingredients, but whatever. It doesn't matter because she wins, okay? The fondue wins. And that's when the guy, Maddie, comes up and is like, so are you gonna sell me your life's work and your favorite thing? And she's like, no, I have a better idea.
I don't want to sell you my shop, but what if we sell your cheese in my shop?
Jesus, Bree, once again, there are school-aged children here. What a disgusting euphemism. Oh, right, they sell cheese. Don't worry, kids, they're just talking about retail dairy. It's not about his cheese dick. She's like, that way, I'll still sell your cheese, and you won't have to compete with the only state-winning award winner of the awards. And he's like, that's kind of a great idea. The board will get exactly what they want. Isn't that convenient? I also forgot to mention, this movie sucks, that Maddie offered Jack a job as like a cheese person for their company, and it's like he was gonna go back to working at a high-end restaurant again, basically, which he gave up at one point. And that's when Bree was like, don't do it, don't do it. And so he reveals here, he's like, I actually had a different idea.
What do you think of a gourmet fondue food truck?
The more liquid cheese, the better.
Yeah, why did I have a feeling that would be your stance on the topic, Brie? I saw you slap the teenager working at Panera in the face because they ran out of broccoli cheddar soup. I swear, this video is not sponsored by Panera. They just have a lot of nasty cheese stuff in there, and I keep thinking about it. As a matter of fact, let me place an order for pickup real quick. We're almost done here. So the girl won the cheese thing. He's gonna own a cheese taco truck or something, and the world lives happily ever after. Let's wrap it up and seal it with a kiss.
Love will find a way, like a flower grows.
Ooh, what a dry, unsexy kiss. Underscored by the same kind of song they would play when a patient dies on Grey's Anatomy. Good luck, you two. Or should I say, Gouda luck. I know, the pun still doesn't sound right, but it, cheese. And that is all she wrote for this cheesy installment of Clip Breakdown. What did you think of It's As Good As It Gets? As good as it gets. Let me know in the comments below. Also, give this video a big thumbs up if you want to see me cover even more Hallmark rom-coms. But most importantly, if you're new to my channel, I would love to have you click that subscribe button right over here. That way you never miss new videos from me. I upload 2 new ones, so turn on the notification icon. That way you'll always be the first to know when I come and bear you a new cheese video. Thank you once again to Toon. Make sure you download it for free using my links below or the QR code. You guys are all the greatest. Thank you so much for shitting out your brains in a taco truck with me today. I will see you next time.